everyone. Thank you for having me for this DeFi Summit. My name is Andreas Kohl, and I am the Director of Institutional Relations at Mintlayer, which is just a fancy way of saying that I am in charge of business development. As you might already have been able to tell from the video we just showed you, Mintlayer is an extremely ambitious project, which could be a game-changing innovation for the entire Bitcoin ecosystem and indeed for the future of decentralized finance as a whole. But before we get into how we're going to do that, I'm going to tell you a bit about what Mintlayer is and how the idea came to be. Let me first tell you about Enrico Ruboli, Mintlayer's lead developer and the CEO of RBB Lab, which is a company developing Mintlayer until the development can be handed over to the community. Enrico worked at Bitfinex as a senior engineer, and he was also involved in the original development of Tether USDT, which, as you might know, was originally built on Mastercoin, which is now known as Omni. Solutions such as these took up a lot of on-chain space on an already very clogged up Bitcoin network. Tether therefore eventually moved to Ethereum, where the same thing eventually happened. We can now see them moving to Tron in a desperate search for chains that are not already congested. Whereas we at the Mintlayer team never really stopped thinking about what it would take to bring assets such as stablecoins and tokenization in general back on top of Bitcoin. After all, the majority of the value in the blockchain industry is held in BTC. Through its proof of work and large network effects, it is the most robust and decentralized network that we know of in the entire digital universe. I want you to remember Metcalfe's law, which, if you don't know, states that the value of a network is proportional to the square of its connected users. If you combine this with the fundamental properties of open source distributed peer-to-peer technology, we believe that the result is the ultimate, most anti-fragile and therefore irreplaceable settlement network upon which consensus of all types can eventually be reached more securely and trustlessly than anywhere else. This is why we are building Mintlayer, a scalable Bitcoin sidechain dedicated to asset tokenization and decentralized finance. Mintlayer's ultimate goal is to succeed as the new tokenization standard for stablecoins, stock tokens, and other tokenized assets, so that all BTC holders are able to access the DeFi ecosystem through a Mintlayer decentralized exchange without having to rely on any centralized intermediary or other third parties. Simply put, a Mintlayer wallet is a Bitcoin wallet too, and a Mintlayer full node can be considered as an add-on to a Bitcoin full node. Mintlayer inherits the security of the Bitcoin proof of work through a system of checkpoints and anchors built into the protocol, which binds the sidechain layer to the Bitcoin main chain. We are also building Mintlayer as closely as possible to the design philosophy of Bitcoin itself. For example, we will be using the UTXO ledger model instead of an account-based model. We will stick to a limited block size. We will implement transaction batching and signature aggregation. And the default smart contracts on Mintlayer will be using Bitcoin script. All of this provides greater privacy and security compared to other alternatives. But more importantly, these design choices also allow Mintlayer to be fully interoperable with Bitcoin, enabling features such as atomic swaps and Lightning Network integration. Currently, all other solutions in the market require the pegging of BTC, cross-chain bridges, or passing through centralized intermediaries in order to exchange the value expressed in Bitcoin for other assets. Absolutely seamless, pure peer-to-peer interchain exchange of BTC for tokens on Mintlayer or interchain swaps between Mintlayer tokens themselves could potentially simplify the user experience enough to drive mainstream adoption. Mintlayer introduces 3 different tokenization standards for all kinds of builders, developers, and innovators to achieve this. Here's a brief video about them.
As it approaches complete mainstream adoption, Bitcoin faces a challenge. It is a labyrinth to issue stock tokens, stablecoins, securities, and assets on the blockchain. Institutions and DeFi projects are constantly striving to comply with regulations and congestion, while users are growing concerned about their privacy. How can this be solved? Mintlayer turns Bitcoin into a protocol that can handle any imaginable financial use case without compromising compliance. There are 3 different Mintlayer tokenization standards. MLS 01 enables optional access control list features. Transactions can be limited according to a set of rules determined by the token issuer or a designated third party, like a service that knows the identity of traders without leaking that information to anyone else. It is the new tokenization standard to digitize stocks, stablecoins, and more, providing a much-needed expansion to Bitcoin's versatility. The MLS02 token standard has native support for confidential transactions. It provides access to groundbreaking levels of privacy and allows to issue pegged confidential versions of other cryptocurrencies, such as Bitcoin and Ether. And last but not least, MLS03 is the new standard for the popular non-fungible tokens known as NFTs. To learn more about the future of finance, visit mintlayer.org.
As explained in the video you just watched, MLS01 is the basic Mintlayer tokenization standard that most people will surely become familiar with. Aside from all the cool features enabled by Mintlayer's interoperability with Bitcoin, MLS01 also offers access control lists, which can be enabled by token issuers when they create a token. These ACLs are programmable black or white lists, which can specify the allowed addresses or transaction types and amounts permitted to be transferred. Thanks to these ACLs, it is possible to build fully compliant decentralized exchanges for security tokens. Since the burden of compliance, that is to say KYC and AML procedures, for example, can be moved to rest fully on the token issuer instead of the exchange. MLS02 tokens, on the other hand, will enable confidential transactions at the cost of larger transaction sizes and therefore higher transaction fees. Although it is slightly harder for centralized exchanges to support confidential tokens like MLS02 tokens or Monero today due to regulatory reasons, these tokens provide users, especially under authoritarian regimes or other types of financial oppression, with the ability to participate in global financial markets on par with every other human being on Earth. It is just as easy to create a decentralized exchange for MLS02 tokens as it is for any MLS01 token, or even to create a decentralized exchange that supports both while maintaining the full aforementioned interoperability with Bitcoin. But for me, nothing is more exciting than the idea of not having a native gas token. Indeed, any MLS01 or MLS02 token can be selected by users to pay for fees for any Mintlayer transaction. Block participants in turn choose which gas tokens they will support and push into the mempool, creating therefore a free market for gas tokens such as we've never seen before, and allowing builders to promote their ecosystems by subsidizing gas, for example. This means from an end user perspective that if, for example, the only thing you want to do with your Bitcoin is to regularly exchange part of your BTC holdings for a stablecoin and place it in a lending contract, you will be able to very simply program this without having to rely on a pagan federation or wrapped smart contract on a different chain. Simply moving your native Bitcoin, exchanging them with an atomic swap for the stablecoin, and you'll also not have to worry about holding some third token that you're not really interested in just to pay for gas to open and close transactions, since you will most likely be able to use this stablecoin or other popular token to pay for gas. Nobody has ever implemented this free market of gas tokens model before, and I strongly believe that it can lead to exciting new opportunities for token creators, but also that this mechanism can be used to drastically simplify the end user experience on mainstream wallets. Of course, only tokens that are considered valuable will be picked up by participants of the blockchain, the block creators and block signers. But how do they qualify as participants? We have looked at some of our competitors who are building federated Bitcoin sidechains where governance is centralized, and we decided that we would rather have an open federation of participants governing the chain, rather than a closed group regulated by contracts with an entity. For that reason, we introduce a proof-of-stake-like system where only users who have a certain stake in the chain have the power to create blocks. Unfortunately, it's not technically possible to introduce a staking mechanism using native Bitcoin directly, and there are issues with using a pegged version of Bitcoin. So we introduced our own governance token, MLT. We are aware of the effects that such a choice may have. After all, Bitcoin maximalists can barely tolerate the presence of other tokens than Bitcoin in the ecosystem. However, we are certain that this model inherits all of Bitcoin security and decentralization, without any of the vulnerabilities that traditional proof-of-stake systems or merge mining models may have, and also without making any compromises on usability, quite the opposite. To ensure a fair distribution of tokens, we have carefully managed a round of private sales with a very reasonable upper limit for each buyer. And in addition, we will also be holding a public sale soon. Tokens remaining in the company are vested so that they cannot be spent all at once at will by the core team. And To ensure a fair distribution of tokens into the community, token holders will additionally be able to vote to express their opinion or support towards projects or other initiatives funded with the tokens that are remaining in the company reserve. Tokenomics are a necessity, but they also have a great value add for the project. Thanks to the support of our seed VCs, from which we have raised a grand total of $5.2 million in an oversubscribed private sale last March, we have already been able to start the development of Mintlayer, and I am very happy to say that we are fully on track to release a testnet by the end of the year. But we cannot build Mintlayer without you, Bitcoin and decentralized finance enthusiasts everywhere. Indeed, we at Mintlayer are all radical cypherpunks, and in the open source spirit of this project, we are counting on our community to build alongside us and provide us with valuable feedback all along the way. For this reason, we would like to invite all of you to join our Telegram channel and to follow us on Twitter. We would love to welcome you in the Mintlayer family and to do our part in shaping history by your side. Finally, it is also in the spirit of building an open community that will guide the development of Mintlayer that we have decided, as I have already mentioned, to hold a public sale in the coming months, shortly before the launch of the Mintlayer testnet. The placeholder tokens sold in this offering will be exchangeable one-to-one for mainnet tokens when the Mintlayer mainnet comes out next year in Q1 2022. The public sale itself will be tightly regulated by the authorities of the Republic of San Marino, with whom we are partnered. I am also pleased to announce that Mintlayer is closely working with RVCs and advisors, which include Alphabet and Launchpool, on preparing this public sale, and that we have already reached out to the Sovereign community, a DeFi on Bitcoin platform, to get feedback for proposed public sale on their Origins platform, with the goal of combining forces with the Sovereign community and to build the ideal infrastructure to support projects like Sovereign in the future. Although the exact dates and platforms will depend on the final approval of the San Marino authorities, we expect to soon be able to make more announcements in this regard. Thank you for listening to me speak today, and look out for more exciting news about Mintlayer.